Collaboration with other mortgage and real estate professionals is how I survived in 2008, when the last time we had a market that I could say is pretty close to what we're experiencing today. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today because I'm finding myself being in a very similar situation. I spend a minimum, not even probably, I do. I spend a minimum of 10 hours a week collaborating. Sometimes it's with groups of 10 to 20 to 30 loan officers. Sometimes it's one on one, and it's not all business. Some of it is business, and some of it is personal. Like some of it is mortgage and some of it is business, personal, just conversations. Now, any of you that know me, I'm not a huge social media person. I'm on social media, but I don't really have big audiences of people that I engage with. Community doesn't have to be a crowd. It can just be a group of people that are like-minded, that are there for you, that you can talk to, that you can lean on if you need to, and most importantly, that you can share with. And that's what I want to talk about today because I think the way that most of us survive this market is we talk to each other. And it's not just mortgage professionals, it's real estate professionals as well. So let me tell you a couple of stories. So when the market crashed in 2008, there were a couple of really cool things. Now, I'm pretty introverted. I'm not somebody that likes crowds or likes to be around a lot of people. I'm much better one-on-one or one to many, but me being one of the many is not really one of my comfort zones. But so there were a couple of things that happened around 2000, after 2008, 2009. The biggest mortgage related thing was a good friend of mine, Mark Madsen, and also Mark Green and Brian Larrabee. They were the three main ones that put this together. And they created a conference called Mortgage Revolution. And I remember it distinctly. It was my first time in Atlanta. It was January of 2010, maybe. So we had just had our first year under our belt, or our first couple of years of really trying to figure out what was going on in the mortgage industry. And if you were in the business back then, it was chaotic. It was very hectic. It felt a lot like today. A lot of your referral sources, a lot of your business channels that you were used to just didn't exist. Or if they did exist, they didn't exist in the same way that they did prior to that. The entire market changed. The entire product suite of loans that were available and lenders that were in the industry, that was all gone, completely wiped out. And the industry was starting from scratch, essentially, on the back of FHA and conventional loans. But most consumers were in a really bad spot. So anyhow, that if you weren't there, it was chaotic. It was as hairy as it is today, but just in a different way. Mark and Brian put together this conference called Mortgage Revolution, and there was really two big rules there. It was a no pitch zone, so nobody was allowed to sell anything. We were just there to share. And there were some really great people there that I had met for the first time. I met Frank Garay, Brian Stevens. They were Think Big, Work Small back then. I met Carl White the first time there and built a long relationship with him. And we had about 300 loan officers in January of 2010 went to Atlanta. I remember it was my first time in Atlanta, and it was cold. It was winter. There was ice and snow on the ground. And I was living in California at the time for quite a while. So it had been a while since I had been out in the snow, but it was amazing. It was about 2 days, I think, of just people sharing. It was loan officers getting up on the stage or in front of a group of people, just sharing what they were doing to survive in this market. And I think one of the single most valuable days, actually it was a night, was after the event. I think it was the first night. There was a bunch of us sitting in a room, maybe 25, 30 people, maybe even a little bit more. We ordered a bunch of beer and pizzas, and people just stood up and just shared what they were working on. Sometimes it was a tactic, sometimes it was a small thing that they were doing. Sometimes it was a big thing, it was a strategy. A lot of people were completely pivoting their business model and trying new business models, but people just stood up and they shared. And everybody that I know from that day, and we still talk about it, that was one of the most valuable times as a community getting together and collaborating. And the one of the things that was great about that is we didn't have a bunch of coaches coming out on social media offering to coach you and tell you what you should be doing. These were just practitioners. We were just all loan officers sharing with each other. Nobody was selling anything. There weren't any pitches. There wasn't any money to be spent. There was just an arm around the shoulder. It's okay. You're going to be fine. Why don't you try this? This is something that worked for me. The other big thing that I did, so I built lifelong relationships, and I still have really good relationships with most of those people that I still run into, and we talk about how great those days were. The other thing is there was a series of conferences. It was actually unconferences. And this was actually for me, it might have existed before, but for me, this was the age of unconferences. And that's what Mortgage Revolution was, is it was an unconference. It was not your typical, it wasn't the big conferences that you go to today with a vendor section and people selling you stuff and people up on the stage pay to play pitching their stuff. The other one that we did was called BarCamp, or Real Estate BarCamp. And it was started by a couple of friends of mine up in the Bay Area in California. And BarCamp was a thing that the tech industry did. And basically all of the engineers and software engineers and coders and stuff, and they would meet in bars and they would just share what they're working on. So my friend said, we should do this for the real estate industry. And for the next 3 or 4 years, I did this and traveled around the country and mostly in California. And it was mostly real estate agents. There were a few loan officers there, but basically you went in there and there was no agenda. You would show up, everybody would agree to meet at some place, and we would have 200 people show up someplace. Sometimes we would charge a small admission so we could rent a hotel. I remember one time we had a condo project in Northern California, and I still have lifelong friendships, deep friendships and relationships with people that we went through these times together, that I met during these times, and they're off doing amazing things. Some of these people ended up being heads of associations and organizations and running big businesses now. And I remember back when all we were was a bunch of confused professionals trying to figure out what we were going to do. So let me explain to you what BarCamp is, because I want to encourage you to do this in your community. And really what it is, you get real estate agents, you get professionals, real estate agents, get some insurance people, get loan officers, get them all together. And we had no agenda. When we showed up, there were index cards, and there was two different colors index cards. One index card is if you had something you wanted to share, and one index card is if you had something that you wanted to learn. Then when everybody would show up to register, they would write down what they wanted to share, what they wanted to learn. And then a couple of organizers or volunteers, we would put it together and put together a schedule. And then every room we would have breakout sessions. And the breakout sessions were just a circle of chairs. And the person that had something to share would start the conversation, but they wouldn't finish the conversation. People would join in. People were interested in having that conversation, so they showed up. But that's all it was. It wasn't a presentation. There were no stages. It was a circle of 10 to 15, sometimes 25 or 30, because remember, back then, social media was just getting started. Facebook was brand new. Twitter was a thing. MySpace was still around. It was a different industry, and there was all kinds of new technologies, and social media was just starting to be a thing. So people were experimenting with different things, and video was really new back then. We didn't have video cameras on our phones necessarily the way that we do today, at least not the same quality of videos. But what we would do is just talk. Somebody would say, hey, I'm doing this, or I'm using video for this. Somebody would say, you know what, I know somebody that's using video, or I tried this, or how do I get started? And then the people that had already gotten started would share how they got started. And it was a beautiful experience. It was an amazing experience. And the thing is, nobody knew it was going to be when they showed up. There was no agenda. You weren't going there to see somebody or to learn something specific. We just went there to share. And again, today I have lifelong relationships with people that I met in those groups. So, what I am encouraging you all to do today during these times, I don't know, I hear crazy terms like dark winter. It's going to be a dark winter, and we know rates are going up. We know there's inventory problems. Guess what, you guys? Real estate is cyclical. It's always going to cycle. It's going to get better. It might even get worse, right? But what we do have, the only thing that we can control is ourselves, our attitude, how we approach this market, and what we do to get through this market. And and what I want to share with you today, the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, this message today, is because I've been reflecting on my days lately, and I realized, like I said, I'm spending 10 plus hours a week collaborating with other people and in the industry about things. And we don't necessarily have an agenda, and we have conversations about what we're working on. So one of the things that I've done to try to facilitate this is I've created, with some partners of mine, I've created a community where we can have these conversations, and we're calling it the Loan Officer Marketing Club. Now, we are charging a monthly fee for this. So if that's something that discourages you, but we're doing it because we want to keep this thing going, and quite frankly, it's one of the ways that allows me to carve out the time to be able to do that. So we meet every week for 2 hours, and there isn't necessarily an agenda. A lot of the conversation is around AI. If you watch my podcast, you know that I completely geek out on how to leverage this new technology in your business to help give you a competitive advantage. But really, there's no agenda. We just have a bunch of really smart loan officers. Here's another cool thing that happens is you end up, when you do these things, when you put yourself out there and when you share unconditionally with no expectations of anything in return, you end up attracting people that have the same mindset and the same character and the same caring that you have. So these are people that are willing to join those conversations, are typically people that you're going to resonate with and that you're going to connect with, and you're probably going to build lifelong relationships by getting into these collaboration communities and having these conversations. In addition to the one that we set up, and I'm going to put a link below if you're interested in that. But I have another friend Scott Nicholson, who owns a company called, it was Lender Launchpad. What is it now? Lender Marketing Platform now. He has a fantastic group, and every Friday we meet and we get 25, 30 people on there, and we're just sharing our best ideas. And the feedback that comes from these conversations is just incredible. It's different every single week. And every single week, I pull away at least one or two great nuggets. And listen, you don't always get great ideas. Like, you're not going to get a solution for the next $1 million that you're going to make. But sometimes when you have an idea, you have a sounding board with these groups, and you can just share your idea and say, this might be a dumb idea, but let me go ahead and share this. And then when people start to build on it and support it, sometimes that just gives you the confidence to know, hey, I'm on the right track. I should continue investing in this idea, and I should continue going down this path and developing this, because everybody around me, these people that I know and trust, they're supporting me in this. So I highly encourage you, whether you join whether you join a paid group or whether you join a free group or whether you organize a mortgage or real estate bar camp where you can bring your whole community together, anything that you have to do, even if you're just doing it on Zoom calls. And listen, if you're one of these people, if you feel alone out there and you're not sure what to do, you don't have to join my group. You can go ahead and reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I have conversations with folks every single week, every single day, with folks just support, just there. I'm there for you. I'm here to support you. You're on the right track. Just keep going. And these are the conversations that we need to have. So think about this. It doesn't cost you money, or maybe it will cost you a little bit of money. I don't think there's anything wrong with paying something to be a part of a group of people that you want to be a part of that group. In most cases, if there's an investment involved, it's because it takes a lot of resources to create that community and to keep that community going and keep it vibrant and keep it flowing. Do this, please. Collaborate with your fellows, collaborate with other professionals that are in verticals that are related to the real estate industry. Heck, just maybe do a small business. If the economy is tough in your town, just do a small business collaboration where you maybe meet at a restaurant. You have small business owners that come in. I'll be honest with you, some of my best ideas came from outside of the mortgage industry, and I just adopted them for the mortgage industry. So stretch your comfort zone, stretch out your heart, stretch out your willingness to give and collaborate and to share with no expectations of anything in return. And I absolutely promise you, it'll come back to you manyfold. Not only will you get ideas, support, and maybe even the path that you need to navigate this market with a much more confidence, but I bet you're going to gain some lifelong friends and relationships like I have during the years doing these exact same things. Wanted to take a couple of minutes. Of course, a couple of minutes for Scott is 20 minutes. So this is a little bit of a shorter podcast than my other ones, but I hope this was helpful and I hope this resonates with you. And I hope you join a community and you start collaborating with other people. I promise you, it will elevate you and it'll elevate everyone around you. And it's the kind of thing that makes the most sense in markets like this. There's so many things that we cannot control, but what we can control is our relationships, our community, and our willingness to collaborate with other professionals to support each other and lift everybody up. All right, that's what I got for you for today. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.